Swinging 60s, here I come, baby, yeah!
Woohoo! All right. I know that the sound of swinging 60s makes you think, wait a second, this isn't the Austin Powers podcast. And you're right. What we have here is a new and different format for Filmatic that we're trying to basically kind of test the waters. Let's see how we do. And of course, I'm here today with one of the greatest minds I've ever met, Sam Moss. How are you?
It's great to be here. I appreciate the intro.
Of course. And alongside him, we have Evan Lemolier, back once again.
Hey, what's up?
How's it going?
Pretty good. Just hanging out, drinking some kratom. Gonna have a good night with my friends, talking about who knows what. What are we talking about today, Nabil?
Well, we're talking about all sorts of things today, but unfortunately, before I can continue with that interesting question, I have to introduce Ben Casey. Ben Casey.
Yeah, Evan, I noticed. I see what you tried to do there. Just
I was hoping
me out of the introduction.
I
don't know if you personally, Evan, have had people come up to you and tell you that they like what you had to say on the podcast, but I have. So.
And it's funny because I'm the one. This is my podcast, and no one said that to me. So.
What can I say? I'm a valued guest, even if not by you, Nabil. All right. So my name's Ben Casey.
You got me.
I'm ready to talk.
All right, guys. Today we're here, and I'm here to talk about not just anything and everything. I want to keep us on track with movies, but at the same time, I want to try to broach or kind of get into more philosophical, kind of taking these themes and ideas from film and hearing our thoughts on it on an existential level or whatever level we want to take it to. And that's why I thought it was so pertinent to bring Sam Moss on for this, because unironically, I really do think that I've had some of the most interesting conversations in my young adult life with Sam Moss in high school and following. So that kind of prompted me, and of course we have, all of us can kind of bring our own takes to it too. But I think Sam has this quality that we all have in us coming from where we came from high school. But Sam especially, you have this thing where I feel like rambling is putting it kind of in a negative connotation. But you have this ability to kind of just take an idea and you go into 3 or 4 different ways with it. And I think that would just be really good content. So that's what was my intention for this podcast.
Well, yeah, I appreciate you having me on. I like to sit down and kind of flesh out an idea in a bunch of different possible ways and really kind of evaluate what the idea means at its core. But not only that, but like how an idea kind of applies to life. And one of the most fascinating things about life is experiences are different. So the way I can process certain emotions, the way I process certain experiences are going to be much different than the way you process certain experiences. Right. That doesn't mean that mine is valued less than yours. That doesn't mean any of ours is greater due to any number of factors. It just means we have different experiences in life. And I feel like it's very important to kind of sit here and share so we can, for lack of a better term, gather more knowledge. Because that's really what I think is the most beautiful thing about life, is just kind of exploring the nature of the world around us and kind of gaining as much experience through not only through an individual's eyes, but through others' eyes, because there's a lot to see and you can't see it alone. It takes a bunch to
that's a really good point. And I kind of want to be clear about that, is like, and you said it so eloquently, is that all our values and our perspectives are none is greater than the other. Just right off the bat, I know I'm doing I did a little Sam Moss kind of jerk off thing in the beginning, but I'm just trying to hype our guest. That's all. And if I wanted a non-equal value thing, well, Connor's not here, so we're all on the same level.
Jeez, that's a little brutal. That's a little brutal.
I don't know. I might cut that. I don't know. I thought we were hitting off of Ben too much, so I thought I'd use a Connor one. But anyway, something that Sam and I kind of started talking about that I'd love for us to start off with, and kind of see how we can apply that to film. Maybe more so me and Evan, because we have more expertise in that arena.
Oh, all right.
Yeah,
Expertise.
like I said. Expertise meaning we've just seen more movies, because that's what we do. Like, you know. But anyway, that topic being the 5 stages of grief. And I'll go ahead and tell you what those are. Of course, we have denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. Does anyone want to start with that topic?
I actually will, if that's all right.
Sure.
Really, you can see the 5 stages of grief applied to any major decision that you have in your life, whether it's subconsciously or whether you can actively see yourself going through each individual stage. Just taking a step back and looking at not only the emotions you're going through, but kind of looking at the actions you're making really helps you understand that the 5 stages of grief are one of the most integral parts of subconscious decision making, as well as trying to achieve happiness on a micro scale on your day-to-day life. I believe that each of these kind of gives an individual the ability to break down their actions and to kind of explain it to themselves in a way that allows them to be a little bit happier. Because if you're going through a lot of anger and you can't necessarily pinpoint the root cause, it's very important to kind of step back and evaluate what's going on. Why am I so angry? Why do I feel this way? And I feel like that can be tied in to a plethora of other emotions. So that's why I was very keen on kind of bringing up this topic.
Yeah, it's definitely a profound thing that I think that because it's it is a numerical thing, 5 stages, and I think that people make the mistake of assigning it a very surface level kind of value and understanding. And I think that one of the great ways that film deals with this is, when you're telling a story, it can be easy to just kind of throw these things onto it, again, as on a surface level. But if you're telling a good story, these things will be there in many ways that you wouldn't even realize until you really analyze the movie after, or if you're kind of rewatch it after. And there's many different examples, but does anyone film that they, off the top of your head, maybe you do, maybe you don't, Evan or Ben specifically, is there any film that you can think of that made you either think of those things, had those things, or you associate with that concept?
You mean like grief in general?
Well, not just grief in general, but how a movie can use grief kind of in tandem with those other things. And it doesn't have to have everything. Not every movie's going to have 5 set stages of that, But is there, like, personally... Oh, not personally, but okay, here's one that I hear a lot. I've heard a lot online. That I don't know if I agree with. I know that a lot of us have very strong opinions about Avengers Endgame. But you go on any of these Marvel sites, accounts, social medias, you see the thing that says, and I'm going to quote it here, because after seeing Endgame, I realized that this scene after Black Widow dies, each of the remaining original Avengers represent this 5 stages of grief. Denial, Thor, because he didn't accept she was dead, and saying they have to have the stones to bring her back. Anger, Hulk, because he throws a bench. Bargaining, Flint, because he said it should have been him. Depression, Steve, because he's silent and crying. And acceptance is Tony, because he asked if she had family.
Here, I actually, not to divert our attention from Avengers, I just found an interesting article, how John Wick movies represent the 5 stages of grief.
I'm actually going to go a little off topic here.
Sure.
I'm not a movie aficionado by any means, but one that I feel exemplifies the stages of grief pretty well is Manchester by the Sea.
Ooh, I haven't seen that.
Manchester by the Sea is phenomenal.
Yeah, I hear it is.
It is one of my favorite movies. long story short, he loses his brother and is essentially just dealing with the outcomes of his brother's death, and it's gut wrenching to see the effect that loss can have on somebody.
Yeah, I think that those kind of dramas that are very introspective and require these great performances. Manchester by the Sea, Casey Affleck. Those can definitely bring out that side of grief in a much more subtle way. Subtle meaning not necessarily that the grief is subtle. I mean, it's very overt events that are happening in the movie. But it's not just about showing the things, right? It's about how the characters or the setting deals with those things, And in Manchester by the Sea, I think that what you see is a character returning to a setting they had pre-grief, and then dealing with grief, going through those stages of grief in the movie through that setting that was previously known. So I think that was a really interesting take on how to deal with that system.
Yeah.
I'd say that both of these recent Ari Aster horror films have had grief grief is definitely a big theme in those. I've only seen Midsummer once, and it was last year, so I can't say I remember all too much about it, but I know it starts with the main protagonist, her family has just died, and she's going on this trip with her boyfriend, who she's kind of having relationship struggles with, out to the Midsummer Festival. It's that's all I really remember.
So
yeah, there is confirmed grief in that movie.
And also what I am so fascinated about with the 5 stages of grief is just the individual aspects. I don't mean to cut you off, Ben, but what I would challenge you guys to do is pick out an individual aspect that you most closely related to today, and just kind of explicate how you went through that emotion and kind of why you went through it. And my challenge to each one of you is to not necessarily psychoanalyze yourself, but to sit down and try to understand yourself a little bit better, because this is one of the tools or one of the methods I use to really try to not necessarily feel like myself, but feel comfortable in my own skin, because I've dealt with some pretty bad stuff over the years. I've dealt with some pretty terrible moments, and living with myself is a challenge day to day. And I would like to hear you guys talk about one of these emotions, how it applies to you, and as a follow-up question, how do you guys deal with your emotions day to day? How do you guys kind of live with yourself? I know that's a lot to unpack.
I know it's definitely a loaded question, especially for, I think, our group, our circle. I think a lot of us have been or are struggling along that path. But I think that what I found recently is I don't think I ever really got to an anger stage in my own kind of path, and I'm not saying that there aren't times when I've been angry, at myself or at whatever, but I think that more recently I do have a more general sense of anger towards, not just myself, but my situations. And I guess that it kind of surprises me when I'm realizing it, and even when I'm talking about it and realizing it more, because that's just not something that I kind of associated with myself. I'm not saying it's wrong to be angry or to have,
I understand that. It's all a learning experience. The older you get, obviously, the more kind of knowledge you gain over time. And anger is one of those emotions that isn't easy to deal with, because it's you almost feel guilty feeling angry. It's one of those emotions that's kind of universally seen as bad, seen as a negative emotion that you shouldn't feel, which I disagree with. I think anger, and let me rephrase this, I think in certain ways anger can be expressed in a good way. But I don't think it's a bad thing, and you may not see yourself as being an angry guy, but anger is, in my opinion, it's a good thing because it shows that you desire change in your life. It shows that you want something to change. Rather than being complacent, you're seeking something different. And I think that is a huge step towards not only self-betterment, but being happier in general. And that's why I think anger is a positive emotion in some senses. Now, obviously, anger, when you, like in terms of domestic violence or anything like that, that's a whole different equation. But like if you're angry at your own situation, if you're angry at yourself, well, it's a good thing because it shows that you hold yourself to higher standards than you let yourself stoop to, and you should try to kind of channel that and focus on how you can make yourself better.
Yeah, that's a good point. I didn't really think about it like that.
I agree. I think that's really cool to put it that way, I guess. Because I think personally, I have a lot of trouble letting myself feel angry, but also like, I guess I just don't know exactly how to word it, but
I mean, I played Rocket League with you before, so.
All right, listen, but that's what I'm saying. Okay. That's actually what I'm getting to is like, I can feel angry over like small things, and I don't even think it's like trivial things. I don't think that's real anger. Like like we're playing a game or something. Like half the time I'm playing into it. I don't actually hate Connor, even though he's
I do not actually hate Connor.
Yeah.
He sucks ass at every game.
But I find like the bigger things, it is kind of hard for me to feel angry about them, and I don't know necessarily. Like, I think that just on certain things that it comes to, the reason why I don't anymore is because I have moved past them. I have moved past that stage of grief, and I guess it's kind of sometimes hard to realize like that's okay, and like recognize that like if I have reached a point of like oftentimes depression, but like if there are some things in my life, whether it's like things that are so far gone that I can't really control anymore, or I think often like situations with my parents, I think I have reached acceptance with those, and I should be proud of that, because it's a progression, and yeah.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. That's obviously dealing with emotions from family is that's a completely different animal, and I have got to say, Ben, from I say one man to another, but really one human to another, I am extremely proud of you for being able to accept that. Because I have gone years and years and years, and I still can't accept some of the shit that's happened in my household.
Right? It's like, it with things like that, I think that's one thing I can point to, and I feel like for years I felt so angry about it that it almost feels weird once you finally reach a certain point and you no longer are. And that's where I'm at. I not to put too much, I don't know who's going to listen to this, but, my sister has listened to it before, but, she, I think she still feels like, I don't think she's gotten to the point of acceptance with some stuff with our parents yet, and I talked to her about it, and she asked me, like how does this not bother you? And it almost makes me feel, not that she's doing anything wrong by asking me that, but, it almost makes me feel like, why am I not? Why am I not so upset about this? Because I was angry for so long, I felt so heated about it for so long, and then I finally just accepted that, what's happened in the past happened, and I just need to realize that people are flawed, and I can't change those flaws, and I can only focus on myself in that aspect, related to family. So, and I think it just takes time, and you'll get there too, and that acceptance will come.
Yeah, it's a very different. It's two different animals. Like really finding acceptance with yourself and finding acceptance of others.
For sure.
Because I can sit here and I can be happy with myself, but then I look at those around me and I have trouble. I have trouble accepting others' actions. I have trouble accepting others' words. So you have made a monumental progress with your family. I am proud of you. And beyond that, I think with your sister, time will change her anger. Time changes a lot of things, but specifically the anger and resentment, it will change. I know personally, if we want to relate it back to the 5 stages of grief, when I have dealt with the issues with my brother, I'm still in the, I've kind of jumped around. I didn't go exactly through the 5 stages in order. I kind of went into a severe depression, where I just kind of shut down for years and years and years. I was actually saved from that depression by somebody very close to me, and I will still be appreciative of that today. And then after I got out of that, I started kind of getting really angry, and I've been angry ever since. Just angry that he can't change, angry that I can't change him, angry that nothing has been done to kind of motivate him to want to live a better life than he does. But like I said, time will hopefully change and move me towards accepting him for the man he is, and accepting him for his flaws, because that's blood. You can't change blood.
Conversation, just to kind of, I don't mean to undermine the very personal aspects of what we're talking about, but to kind of bring this into the movie thing. I'm not just saying it like it's a task, like I have to, link into movies because it's what I have to do. I mean, it's sort of what I have to do. I don't have to do anything. This is my podcast. My point is, I think that film really can have a play in this conversation, even if movies are just movies. It can still have something we can learn from on some level, whether it means to or not. So, we were talking about anger and family and the situations that kind of put those two things together. And I think about it and I'm like, anger with and towards and among family is actually a major drive in many films that I think that help the film become more profound. And, you take something on the lower spectrum where, like, okay, Knives Out, right? Everything that happens in that movie, which happens to be a whodunit movie, but it all stems, and the lesson in the end is about family, right? It's all about the family members being angry at each other and angry that they aren't getting inheritance, and they fight. They're constantly fighting and bickering, and there is a lesson in there. I don't know how many people have seen Knives Out, but we can expand upon that if we want. But
yeah, actually, that one's good. I really like the kind of this kind of motif of like not only grief and family in Knives Out, but like just actually caring about your family and like not dude, I don't know where I'm going with this. I've been so quiet this time, like this whole fucking podcast. I don't really
it's okay.
know what to talk about.
I think that we just are coming into this, like I said, it's the first time we're doing something like this, and we're opening ourselves up on this podcast to a different level than we had before. And maybe some people will like that, maybe some won't, but I think that it really will enhance our
an open person usually, so this is kind of like.
And you can share as much as you want. You're not being forced.
Well, can you guys hear me all right? I changed headphones. Evan, I'm going to extend the question to you as well. As soon as we finish this little discussion on Knives Out, I want you to think about how the 5 stages of grief applied to your life. Could be on a macro scale, or it could be just today. But I live with you, and I understand that you're not very kind of open with your emotions, and I would like you to kind of challenge yourself to try a little bit, just little by little.
You might like it.
Kind of work on it.
I guess, yeah. So while he's thinking about that, just to kind of wrap up where I was going with Knives Out is like, and what prompted me to kind of launch from there is like, violent acts Well, let me expand that. All acts are born out of something to me, especially in film, right? Can be born out of will, can be born out of want, can be born out of love, and I think that what I'm getting at to link it back to our anger discussion is like terrible acts can be born out of anger too, and that goes into what Sam was saying about the other side of the coin with how you deal with it. And Knives Out, there's murder. In Joker, there's a lot of murder. I don't know how many people here have seen
Joker?
The Departed.
Oh.
Actually, let's go back. You want to say anything about Joker and anger and murder, Ben?
Yeah. With the election coming around, like obviously we don't want anything violent to happen. That's not what I'm an advocate on this podcast, but I mean it does make a good point in that movie. A lot of people want to say it's an incel film. Okay, maybe it's an incel, but I think it makes really good social commentary on action and reaction, and specifically build up over years of this kind of feeling by society of being pushed down by an upper class that leads to a sort of uprising, and sometimes that is violent. And we've seen that over the summer with some riots that get a lot out of hand. I think that it's a natural response, and when people have been put down for so long, they get sick and tired of the status quo, and unfortunately sometimes that leads to something that you see in Joker, where he's kind of a symbol or a martyr for this lower class of people in Gotham, but that's applicable to real life too. I mean, the reason why people voted for Donald Trump and why many people have voted for him again, everybody has their own reasons, but I would say that a majority of people voted for him because they're tired of the status quo. They're tired of both Republicans and Democrats not representing them, and they felt, whether rightfully so or not, he proposed himself as someone who could represent them, and I think he has done a lot of harm, and I am in no way fucking advocating for him. But you have to look to be able to understand how we can keep this from happening. You have to look at why it happened. If you're choosing to just go with the status quo and continue the same routine of thought that we need this like moderate thinking where Democrats and Republicans both really only pay attention to their corporate interests and don't pay to the people, you're going to have violence, and I use the term violence in terms of just outbursts of emotion on both sides, and that leads to different things. Leads to riots, leads to people electing a fascist who's able to feed on that fear and anger and frustration with society. I think that, fuck Donald Trump, and I'll end it with that.
I think that
Let's do better.
This is our podcast.
Well,
yeah, go ahead.
Ben, that's a very good point. It's part of the reason I despise Biden is because he's a career politician.
I agree. I hate that bitch. I hate both of them.
And
but I voted for him.
Don't get me wrong. I despise Trump too, both of them. But you made one of the best points that I've heard throughout anybody talking about this election process that nobody is talking about. Everybody's talking about, oh, if you don't vote Biden, you're an idiot. Nobody's talking about why we're here, why we have to vote Biden, why it's so integral to understand kind of the history of the past 4 years to really kind of grasp what the fuck is going on. And I think you raised a lot of good points, and I just wanted to say that it was very topical. I just appreciate that point, because you don't hear a lot of people saying that we need to look to the past to understand the future.
Yeah, and it's not even that far in the past. People forget so easily what's happened so recently. and it's a little frustrating. Yeah.
Yeah. And you're talking about, like you said, great point, linking to the past. You know, film lets us link to the hypothetical. Film lets us use creativity and art to, and you kind of, I guess, already discussed this with Joker, but just to kind of top that off, to use creativity and art to say, hey, this is something that could happen, let's not do this. And Joker obviously used a fantastical, used a very famous DC character, and it was very much more dramatized because of that. And people recognize that, and I think it gets obviously a lot more memed on because of that. And, probably rightfully so for that reason. But it doesn't take away from the fact that that film, and so many before it, Taxi Driver, what have you, talk about scenarios that for now exist in the corner of the creator's mind, but can all become all too real if we're not careful. And I think that I think we hit a lot of good points there, and I think that people by now know. None of us are claiming that we're Joe Rogan tier, that we know what we're talking about when it comes to politics, but we're just trying to link it to our internal discussions. So with that, Evan, is there anything you want to talk about regarding what Sam was asking you? And of course, remember, you don't have to. You can share as much as you want. It's up to you.
With grief, not really.
That's fair.
Well, just I'm gonna kind of poke and make you do it. Sorry, Evan. Just pick one stage out of the 5 and apply it to your life today.
Depression. That's for sure. I don't know. I think this year's kind of thrown my whole life off a bit. It's just been very jarring for me, and I'm no longer the loud, talkative Evan that you used to know. I'm the quiet one that once the recording starts on the podcast, I just shut up. But I think right now I'm kind of like just in a sort of part of my life where I'm kind of just clueless. I don't really know like where I'm gonna go next, what my next step is of this whole process, what my ultimate goal is, which in the past few weeks I've realized has been changing quite a bit, Watch me not live in America in the next 10 years. But
I'm right there with you.
To take one of I guess I would have to say depression is definitely the biggest one in my life right now, just because I don't know, there's come to think of it, there's not really like one specific thing that's been like wearing me down. I think it's just like a little bit of confusion, and I don't feel very guided right now. Kind of lost. Mm-hmm. I'm sure we can all agree with that, though.
Big time.
It was really me just kind of challenging you to apply those topics to your life, and it's not necessarily because I wanted to be nosy and know all about your life.
Yeah, I get that.
It's more like an exercise to get you to kind of assess how you're doing.
But I think we really tackled those ideas on our own level of anger and family pretty well. Has anyone here seen the movie The Departed?
I have.
Yes.
I have not.
I think that
one of my favorite movies.
One of my favorite movies of all time as well. It's a great movie. Basically, Sam, it's about an undercover cop and a mole in the mob in Boston. They're trying to identify each other, and they're both trying to infiltrate a gang. Starring Mark Wahlberg, Leonardo DiCaprio, directed by Martin Scorsese, also Jack Nicholson. But I think when, on the surface, and it is, it's a crime thriller drama, obviously. That's very obvious. But I think that when we were talking about this idea of family, and I kind of was just thinking about it and how we could relate it to film again, I think that both of those main characters are both looking for a sense of family. They were both denied a real family at a very young age and kind of had to swap places for a war they didn't want to fight, and are at the same time trying to adapt into their new family, quote unquote, while also being tasked to do these impossible tasks that they've been trained to do since they were kids. So I think that is such an interesting take, and I really hope, I'm not sure how many people have seen it, but I really recommend people see that if you are in any way interested by that kind of talk and that we were discussing.
You know what? I probably should have brought this up earlier, but I feel like in terms of like, family, I feel like Wes Anderson is a really good director for who a lot of his movies, especially the one I'm thinking about right now is The Royal Tenenbaums, which is about kind of it's mostly about like divorce in a family and how it separates the family and how what happens when someone in your family wants to try to reconnect with something that's already so broken and disastrous over the years, and how to heal like relationships like that. And I feel like it can kind of co-align with what especially Sam and Ben were talking about earlier, and with dude, I'm fucking losing my train of thought, but
I know what you're talking about, like a dysfunctional family and how that kind of plays into what we were talking about, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
I haven't seen that one. I do want to see it. No, I'm just looking at it. I looked it up. 2001. Wes Anderson. It's on Amazon Prime if anyone wants to watch it. But yeah, no, I think that the dysfunctional family is something that has prevailed and will always prevail in film.
Because I feel like everyone,
Oh, no one's in a
has-
perfect family.
No. Everyone
No.
deals with that sort of thing.
To
And it's
some
interesting
level.
to see because, I feel like that's where certain, I wouldn't say issues, but just like characteristics, that's where they really all root from, back at home. And that's always an interesting thing to talk about with people, like how, they were brought up, how their family life is, to see how, it's changed them and affected them over the years. I'm no stranger to, having a sort of dysfunctional family. My family doubled in size one day, and I kind of just had to, deal with that. And I kind of went through these sort of similar stages. I definitely went through, like, anger, having two new, brothers to deal with. It was very strange. I was always the youngest kid, and suddenly I wasn't, and I had to kind of not only, interact with and get along with, but also kind of guide two, younger brothers now, and it became stressful for me. It confused me at the time because I was still pretty young, and it's interesting to see how that has shaped me. I feel like almost in some ways it made me a better and a worse person because I've changed a lot since then, but I also realized I've probably, done some things I kind of wish I could take back due to like the anger and confusion I was feeling at those times. And like the Royal Tenenbaums, it's all about kind of, how do you go back and fix some of these problems that you've created. You just gotta have to basically just keep trying. So I know, we all have our own kind of issues at home, and it's interesting to hear, everyone's story.
Yeah. And something that I think really prevails and was really interesting to me in film as I'm kind of thinking about and looking at movies that feature those dysfunctional families at a forefront is that usually they're either horror or comedy. Slasher films always start with them. Even new age horror, Parasite, Hereditary, we talked about that.
Mm-hmm.
And on the other hand, or side of the coin, you have comedies about dysfunctional families. And I think that's just so interesting to me because it kind of takes you back to like the pure roots of like theater, and like Shakespearean kind of era in terms of like tragedy and comedy and how they intersect. So I think that it's so like it speaks to the prevailing nature of the dysfunctional family that aspect of it has, at least to me, in my opinion, kind of survived and evolved since then. I just think that's so cool.
Yeah, I mean, I think that if you look at, you're talking about how prevalent, kind of throughout all mediums. I mean, I think theater, specifically, like, if you look about, like, Shakespeare traveling up to, like, Chekhov in Russian theater in the 1800s, that was all drama surrounding family. And that led to, learning about how Russian theater influenced American actors, and then American actors kind of led to everything after, like, I guess kind of what I thought of was, like, sitcoms. I think, like, like, they, obviously, like, you got the Brady Bunch, you got, like, Happy Days, you got a bunch of different shit that, like, in the 80s, like, is still very just well known. Like, even if, like, people nowadays don't really watch them, it's culturally, like, everybody knows those. And then I think, like, those, you played on, like, family drama, but it was mostly happy. But now even there's, like, other familial, like, sitcoms that kind of go into, like, deeper issues. Like, I'd say, like, A Modern Family. Again, regardless of whether you think shows like that are good or not.
Can't
Or
forget Fuller House.
Full House is a good one, I think.
No, Fuller House.
Oh, sorry, Fuller House. True, the sequel. I think that different shows like Fresh Off the Boat, I watched some of that. It's pretty good. Blackish.
And even the ones that aren't, like, directly about blood-related families, I feel like most sitcoms try to emulate a form of that, no matter what, like, you name one, like, a group of friends who are a family, Seinfeld or How I Met Your Mother, even if you go back to the beginning, Cheers, right?
Cheers.
When everybody knows your name, so, like, sitcoms, because they emulate what you were talking about, theater and comedy and all that stuff, and how they've evolved, are still trying and are targeting to create that, whether it's about a literal family or not, because that's what most people can relate to. Because, like we said, no one has a perfect family, besides maybe Josh Turner, I guess. But
I'm being called for my job, so I'm sorry. I have to go.
Oh, behave. Yeah, baby. Yeah.
And we're back. I'm sorry for that little interruption. Ben had to take a call for work. Ben, what was that all about?
So I'm an RA here at New College, and on the down low, there have been some break-ins on campus recently. So it's been a pretty hectic time. So there was another one tonight.
Where?
Yeah, and I was a little worried that it had something to do with that. I get a text saying, "Oh, we have a dispute or something going on," and I got a missed call. So I was like, "Oh, it's probably pretty serious." So I walk over, and they ask me what movie to watch, and their choices are the original Muppets movie or the new Muppets movie starring Jason Segel.
New one for sure.
2011, and I told them exclusively the new one.
Yeah, because it's so much better.
Or am I a Muppet? Am I a Muppet?
So,
if I'm a man, then I'm a very many Muppet, very many. It's so
Did you
good.
guys watch, like, the Muppet Show? Like the old one?
No,
like, I watched it all the time when I was a kid. It was great.
I can't really compare the new one to the old ones, other than I've watched, like, a couple of, like, I think I watched, like, Muppets Take Manhattan, like, a couple different ones. And they're funny, but, like, the newer one is so fucking good. Like,
did you ever see when they tried to do, like, a mockumentary, like, on ABC a few years ago? Like, kind of like The Office, but they tried to do it with the Muppets.
Yeah.
I won't lie, parts of that were kind
of
of funny, but it definitely didn't last for a reason.
Damn, I didn't see that, but that's pretty
funny. Muppets is it.
I have an interesting, like, I don't know, like, I guess memory of the Muppets, because, like, I watched the show a lot because we had, like, VHS tapes of it, and I'd watch it in the car. So, like, I think the one I remember the most is the two I remember the most are Elton John, who played Crocodile Rock with like these Muppet crocodiles, and they like push him in the water, and it's funny. And then like let's see, you also had like Alice Cooper with like Welcome to My Nightmare or whatever. That one was pretty fun. I can't say much about like the older movies. From what I remember, they're kind of like shit, but I loved the 2011 one with like Jason Segel and
I think
Amy
Jason
Adams.
Segel is a great actor. I like everything I see Jason Segel in.
There's actually one, what's it called? It's that movie about David Foster Wallace.
Oh, End of the Tour.
Yeah, actually really good movie. I mean, it's not like one of my favorites, but I watched it one night, and David Foster Wallace is a pretty interesting writer. I think like his most famous book, Infinite Jest, is pretty fucking memed on. But he actually has some really good speeches, and I enjoy some of his writing. But
have you
that
seen
movie with has Jason Segel in like a serious role as DFW, and I forget who else is in it. The reporter, but oh yeah. Oh wait, yeah.
Right?
And
Yeah.
and I would recommend it though if you're interested. Seeing him play a different kind of role is pretty cool.
Mm-hmm. Have you seen I Love You Man, the one with Paul Rudd, where they're like,
oh yeah,
he becomes friends with Jack. Dude,
That's
that one's
fucking
so
awesome.
fun. It's such like a I don't know, just like a there's not really any like huge stakes to that movie or anything. It's just one of those like chill feel good movies, Go
Yeah.
watch it with your buds.
Dude. Have you seen
drink some
Dinner for
beer or
Schmucks?
No, I have not.
Dude,
I do remember.
I oddly remember like very well when that came out.
That's what I was about to say. It was promoted well.
The marketing for it. I was like, oh, I want to see this. Like The Office guy, even though I hadn't watched The Office at the time. But like, I don't know why I was like so interested in it. And then I remember torrenting it.
Okay, I'm not pointing that out.
I know. And I watched it and I was like, this just isn't funny.
Wait, it's on Netflix.
It's on Netflix now?
Yeah.
Dude, I
One
just
second,
did not
it was
like
directed-
that at all. I was like, why did I even take the time to
It
fucking
was directed by Jay Roach, the same guy who directed Austin Powers. So,
Really?
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
I know what I'm watching then. That's the movie.
They
Dinner
say
for
if there ever is an Austin Powers 4, Dinner for Schmucks is probably the closest we'll get.
Really?
The New York Times official critic review is Dinner for Schmucks is in some ways an exemplary modern Hollywood comedy.
What?
That is literally on the front page when you type in Dinner for Schmucks.
Huh.
That's
so
really
it did well critically.
I think we got to do a Dinner for Schmucks episode.
I don't know.
At
Maybe
this
I'll
point.
link it now.
Maybe we'll do like a few of those kinds of comedies.
I don't know why, but whenever I think of Dinner for Schmucks, I also think about that time in my life where I was always watching like, viewer on demand shit on like Verizon. And I'd always get an ad for this one movie with Vince Vaughn in it called The Dilemma. I haven't seen it. I don't know what it's about. I just remember the trailer for it so well because it has that the song like Forget You or like Fuck You or whatever in it.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. I've seen that trailer hundreds of times.
That's so funny.
It's Forget You by CeeLo, or it's Fuck You by CeeLo Green, but the censored version is Forget You.
Yeah.
So,
which arguably I like that version more. I think Forget You sounds better than Fuck You.
I agree.
It's
when I think Dinner for Schmucks, I think for some reason also well, I know why. Little Fockers came out the same year. So now I know why.
Yeah, I've seen that one.
What do you think of the Meet the Parent trilogy? You got Meet the Parents, Meet the Fockers, and Little Fockers.
I haven't seen Little Fockers.
I've seen the first 20 minutes of Little Fockers.
Was it
I'm
as
pretty
good
sure
as you were expecting?
No, I mean, for the first 20 minutes, it was pretty lackluster. I just know we had all three on DVD, and the first two always be on repeat. And then one time, I think one of my parents tried to watch Little Fockers, and then after 20 minutes, they shut it off. So.
Oh yeah. I had a similar predicament.
Meet the Parents is a classic.
Remember, like, watching a movie, like, with your parents when you're younger? And they're like, there's always, like, the sex scene, like,
Dude.
halfway into the movie.
I would
Your dad's
always
gotta-
sneak in. Not sneak in. No, I mean, like, I wasn't supposed to be in the room, but like when my dad watched like Austin Powers, like any of the trilogy, I remember distinctly being like very small and seeing the scene in Goldmember where he's pissing to match the water fountain.
Yeah.
Hey, no spoilers.
Sorry. And
I actually don't remember that scene.
it's so funny. Dude. Okay,
oh, wait,
well,
yeah. I remember it.
Look, Goldmember is Goldmember. We're not gonna get into it because it's not the Austin Powers episode, and Ben hasn't seen it yet. But there are some pretty great jokes that in that movie that are original from the other two that I think need to be respected. But anyway, we'll talk about that when the time comes. Next episode. So we took a turn there. We took a little bit of a turn when Ben came back from our previous.
It went from, like, grief to little fuckers.
Little
With
fuckers.
fucking schmucks.
Oh, give me 1 second, guys. I'll be right back.
All right.
What the heck?
This guy.
This guy.
I'm glad we all have, like, similar memories of the
Right.
movie trailers that were popular in, like, 2007 or whatever.
Dude, I feel like it's such an iconic time. Like, the late 2000s. It's just so, like, ingrained in my mind.
Maybe because you were developing as a child. That could be why.
Fuck you, Miguel. How fucking dare you say that?
Oh, the late 2000s were.
Dude, yeah, for some reason, like, the 2000s and 2010s have been, like, really big, like, parts of my life.
It's weird. It's weird. I hate the. You know, everyone loves the 90s. I hate the 90s. I don't remember anything. from
Yeah,
the
I literally, like, what?
literally nothing.
What even happened, bro? Nothing. Such a boring-ass decade. 2000s and 2010s were so much more memorable.
All right,
What,
apologies. I got a
No
call.
problem. Interesting. You know, as we were talking about 2000 or late 2000s movies and those trailers, I see a movie here that I haven't thought about in a long time, and I guess kind of envelops our more serious first half of this episode when we were talking about grief. Bridge to Terabithia. What do we think of that?
Dude, okay, you just fucking
Yeah, you
unleashed
awakened
something
something?
within me, alright?
You mean the one
That
with Josh?
Fuck
Josh
me up
Hutchins
like
and-
no other, alright? I remember reading the book before
yeah, I read
watched
the book
movie.
too. Yeah.
I was a fan before the movie, let me just say. What year did the movie come out? I forget.
2007.
Alright. Read the book sometime kindergarten, first grade. Banger. The ending. Oh my god. Literally,
What,
like,
the girl
very,
dies or whatever?
like some very serious movies have affected me less than that movie did. You know, maybe
What?
it's because I'm serious. Dude,
didn't
I was
even
so
show, like-
fucking sad.
we didn't
That's
even get
what's
to
so
see that
powerful about
bitch
it.
die.
I will say the book
Not
felt
her
a little more
dying off
powerful to
screen.
me.
For dying off screen, I think the book too, yeah. But
Yeah.
But that book,
I'm merely
it's a
joshing you.
children's movie. Fucking hell.
yeah, no, same thing. That book and Where the Red Fern Grows. Those two got me as a kid.
Yeah.
For the
There
first
was
time.
one movie. This one movie when I was younger is called My Dog Skip, and it's
Oh,
like
that
you
one
know,
got me.
classic boy and dog movie, and
Oh, dude,
something happens, like the dog gets hurt, and classic. It was
no,
straight
that
tear
that-
fuel.
that is I agree, but that is nothing compared to Where the Red Fern Grows, dude. Like his thing is with two dogs, and I guess I'll spoil Where the Red Fern Grows, a book from like 19 whatever, but his two dogs get like eaten alive by wolves at the end. It's like a children's book. He goes through this whole thing, and it's this whole like coming of age story, and his family is fucked up, and then at the end he just watches his hunting dogs like, oh, it's that shit was crazy.
Yeah.
It was published in 1961. All right.
Wow.
So spoilers. We're gonna put a spoiler.
So spoilers
alert.
if you have.
Spoilers for the Red Fern Grows.
All right. I'm
Where
actually-
does the red fern grow in a field?
Red Fern Grows
One
where
of
they
the,
fucking died, where they got fucking
Oh
they got-
damn!
when the fucking
On
whatever
the bridge to
ate their intestines, he
Terabithia.
buried them there, and that's where the red fern grows. Like Jesus
shit.
Christ.
One of the
Y'all ever
movies
seen-
that affect- Oh, sorry, Ben. Continue.
Y'all ever seen fucking what's that one? Fern Gully? Fern
I
Gully?
know what you're talking about, but
Uh,
no, I've
It's about like deforestation and all these
Who
fucking
cares?
animals lose their homes, fairy creatures. So sad.
I've seen a better movie like that, and it's called Avatar, starring James Cameron.
Starring James.
Starring Sam Worthington, actually.
Yeah, starring Sam Worthington. That's right. Good. I'm glad to
That's
see
so funny to me.
Worthington's
Yeah, it's hilarious.
career is going on.
Avatarington.
I can't wait for
Cheer.
Sam Worthington to make his return to film when Avatar 2
After
comes out.
after a long-waited hiatus after his last film, Wrath of the Titans, or
Yeah.
like what? Isn't that
Godzilla.
crazy that like
Godzilla? Seen Godzilla?
no that's
I saw the new.
I don't
That's-
know.
that's the
He's
guy
very
from
much
Kick-Ass.
so typecast, dude.
But you know what's interesting? Like that a guy like Sam Worthington can go from starring in James Cameron's Avatar, biggest movie ever. It has a
Terminator.
Disney part. And then what? Terminator Salvation. But like, what does he do now? Did he quit acting, or is like?
He was
he was
dating a little bit,
Hacksaw
but
Ridge.
I'm not sure if that.
Wouldn't be a filmatic episode without some healthy bleeps. So yeah. Yeah, no, I think Sam Worthington deserved more.
I'm gonna be honest. Like, I wasn't a big fan of like him as an actor. I didn't think he had any
I'm
charisma.
really not a big
So, like,
fan of
maybe
Sam
that's why.
Worthington either.
Yeah, no, I'm just kidding. Worthington snitched.
On God.
Worthington snitched on Michael Bay for creating shit movies.
Okay. What?
Did you know Avatar 2 is coming out in 2015?
2022.
2015.
Okay.
Remember when they said that shit like on like
Yeah,
Facebook?
although yeah, I remember.
Can we actually
Avatar
talk
2.
about Avatar and how is anyone possibly excited for it?
I'm not excited for it, but I still like the first one. But
I
yeah,
hated the first movie. I
could
saw
not
it in
care.
theaters.
It's just weird to me as a
I
kid.
didn't
I'd have to
get
rewatch
it at all. I mean, I was fucking very young.
You should watch
so-
it again. You should watch it again because when I first saw it, I wasn't like all that blown
Dude.
away by it. But I feel like
Maybe I'm
since
just
then,
not a big James Cameron fan. I don't know. I like
I'm
Titanic.
not even kidding. There is a character in Avatar with the last name
What is it?
Worthington Snitch. Alright? That's
Oh,
all
like-
I have to say. That's the only commentary we need on this movie.
is
Next
that
one.
like a
Okay.
She Who Shall Not Be Named reference?
Yeah, it is.
The vice principal of Beep, Taylor Beep.
Right.
Does everybody not know who the snitch was? Like, I'm asking.
Can you just
this,
tell
like,
us on the podcast?
Do you know?
It was
Yeah.
Avatar.
Wait, who was it? Who was it?
It was
That's not surprising.
because he was seen multiple times going into his office.
Seeing her,
Well, I mean, we've all theorized that.
seeing some.
You know, you mentioned Avatar. Let's talk about humanity versus technology, okay? Just to kind of go back to the deep dives for a second. This is less personal, so hopefully we get Evan involved in this. But science fiction offers a lot of particular opportunities to explore our deep-seated anxieties about technology. You know, 2001: A Space Odyssey provided one of those first like masterful examples. In the prehistory sequence, the Bone Club was an instrument for killing, and it appears as the first major technical breakthrough of our species. In the future, much of the human interaction we see has been totally reduced to long-distance communication through screens, and a spaceship's intelligent computer attempts to murder its human crewmates. And finally, a godlike alien intelligence appears not as feeling and anthropomorphic, but as a cold black monolith, and as efficient and inscrutable as any machine. And I mention all that because 2001: A Space Odyssey was the first film, well, not the first, maybe it's debatable, but the first major feature film to kind of so deeply explore those aspects and anxieties. And I just want to know what you guys think about humanity versus technology in today's world, especially post-corona. And you can talk about whatever you want, you know, real life, film, whatever. So what do you guys think?
Well, funny that you use I'm an idiot. Funny that you use 2001 as your example for that, which I think obviously it is a really good example. I love the that cut
Prehistory. Yeah.
they throw the bone into the air and it cuts to the spaceship flying in the sky, kind of shaped similarly. But I would argue that I think it's the movie he directed right before that. It's Doctor Strangelove. That one I'd say has equally like similar themes to kind of like man's creation and how like we've kind of lost control of it. Where like in the case of this story, it's kind of like a take on the Cold War, where America is going in and they're doing this like preemptive strike on a Russian target, and they kind of like you got like the pilots on the plane and the politicians in the United States kind of lost in communication with each other, trying to get this plane to stop dropping the bomb, because if they drop the bomb, this doomsday machine in Russia will set off and basically ruin the world. And it's funny because the source material for it was this book called Red Alert, and it's about it basically has the same plot, except whereas Dr. Strangelove is written more as a comedy, this one was the book was way more serious. And it's interesting to see how Stanley changed it from like this dramatic war movie to a comedy that more or less comments on the people that have put these weapons and like the people who are in charge of these extremely heavy nuclear weapons. And it's a funny take on it. I really suggest you guys watch it. It's hilarious. But I don't want to keep rambling, but I feel like that's a good example of kind of man having no true control over the creations he's made. But yeah, if we want to go back to 2001, which I mean, I think it's definitely a movie that, as slow as it is, and as kind of like it's more of like an experience almost than a movie. I feel like everyone should watch it, just especially for like the visual work alone in it. I think is excellent. It's probably like one of my favorite looking movies of all time. But yeah, I think it's an interesting theme, especially nowadays with social media, stuff like that. I feel like that's one of the biggest things I think of in that case. Like, do you guys, what do you guys think of like how big social media has become, and like what do you guys think like how it affects your life?
Yeah, go ahead. I have thoughts about this.
Well, Nabil, you go first because I got a whole lot.
Yeah.
Too, so.
I'll try to make mine as straightforward as I can. I mean, it's a pretty straightforward thing. I think that social media today, specifically Facebook, if you had to choose one, is the greatest propaganda machine in history. Literally, I think that it is a system that may have started good intentioned, but
I don't know about that.
I said may have.
I mean,
trying to give benefit of the doubt.
Hot or not.
Social network, yeah, the hot or not site. Just comparing.
Would you fuck this person?
Yeah, isn't that funny? That's how Facebook really.
The fall of democracy began with a fucking.
Yeah, The Social Network, I think, is one of the best films I've ever seen.
Very good movie. I think we can talk about that after Nabil's point, though.
I mean, I mean, you guys are kind of running with it. I think in the right direction. I think that what we have now, whatever it started as, is, like I said, the biggest propaganda machine in history. You're giving a platform to everybody, which on paper is great, and I think that everyone should have a platform to some extent. But when you give a platform that's unregulated, unmitigated, and can reach every corner of the world, you're giving it. It gets to the point where I think that shutting it down or limiting something like Facebook, it's not about limiting anyone's free speech. It's about not giving people, including some of the most reprehensible people on Earth, the biggest platform in history to reach a third of the planet. Freedom of speech is not freedom of reach. Like, I think that I think that, I mean, imagine, I mean, maybe this is like too far, or you've heard, maybe your grandma say this, but like, imagine if Adolf Hitler had Facebook. How much worse would that situation be? How different would the world's perception be of something that terrible on that level be if their information that they're receiving about it is mass-produced and, like I said, unmitigated? So I think that Facebook could very well be the downfall of at least one major tenet, if not our entire society. So that's my
I feel like I've noticed, since this election has really kicked into high gear, it really made me aware of how biased my news is on my phone. Like I'll be using like Reddit, and I'll be on the news tab. Okay, ha ha ha. Yeah,
I use it too. If I'm not making, I just
no, but yeah, I'm fucking with you. But it's funny because you'll look at your news section, and especially like during with the election going on, I've noticed how like biased my the stuff they show me on social media is, and how it kind of only just aligns with the interests I have and the things I agree with. And I thought that was interesting because I was comparing it with one of my roommates who has different political views than I do. And we compared our news sections, just on Reddit. And it's crazy how different it is. It's almost like we're using like the algorithm we've set to kind of, give us what we want through social media, give us all the stories and the news that we would want to read. In a way, it's kind of just dividing us even more. Yeah. Hello?
Sorry, I was using the bathroom. I can comment on that pretty heavily. I think social media is detrimental to the individual to a noticeable degree. So for me personally, I noticed that the less screen time I have during the day, the happier I am. It's a pretty direct correlation, actually, and it's honestly surprising to kind of see that effect, especially when you pay attention to it. And whatever was going on, the fact that media sources and what people push on us can affect our views, it just goes to show that we are being polarized to a scary degree, and people are just feeding us this information. And it's almost like they plant a seed and then they just fucking hammer it down in your brain.
Yeah, and
it's horrible.
With like, and on the other hand, I see like through platforms like Instagram, it's kind of like that, you have to advertise your life the way you want people to see you. So, and also, quick side note, Nabil, I don't know if it's just for me, but I feel like your audio is really quiet. I can't hear you.
It is super quiet.
Just for like the past minute, like you haven't really said anything important when it's been quiet, but just let me know.
My internet's cutting in and out, but I'll try my best.
Okay.
Continue.
Where was I? So yeah, with Instagram, it's different because you're basically advertising to everyone the type of person you want them to see you. And I've noticed, to go along with what you said, Sam, about like that kind of correlation between happiness and how much you use these, your phone or social media, I think it's true, because I'll go on Instagram, I'll see everyone, posting just the positive aspects of their life. And it makes everyone else's life seem so much happier than yours, because you don't really know what's going on behind the scenes. And it's not really like it's not quite a healthy thing to have. I've personally, I don't really use Facebook anymore just because I can't fucking stand it, to be honest. And then I've been trying to cut back on using Instagram, just because I don't really like how fake its
I think
outlook on life is.
And it's hard to cut it out, especially when you live in an environment, and especially this time, before Corona, but especially during and after, where you're isolated and that's your only connection, you feel like, to your outside world. And when you're bored, you just open Instagram or you open Snapchat or you open, for some people, Facebook. I also am really avoiding that, but or Reddit, because that counts too, I guess. And I think, just to go back to Instagram, like, not only has, I think Evan touched on such a great point with Instagram affecting one's happiness when you're looking at everyone's, like, what seems to you as, like, their perfect life or their best life and how it's much better it is than yours. That affected, I think, a lot of us, if not everybody to some extent. When we, you got introduced to us in, like, what, early middle school, 6th grade,
Yeah,
7th
I'd say
grade?
so. I think possibly even earlier.
Maybe
I
earlier,
feel like I
depending on
was
when
in,
you got
like,
a phone.
5th grade or something. Yeah.
Yeah, and, like, just to see its progression now, I think a lot of people would not be who they are without Instagram and cultivating one's own personality to try and match someone else's, And then you look at Instagram today, and it's very sad to see that, at least in my opinion, I think that it's got to the point where especially a lot of, specifically females, have been put in this terrible situation where it seems like they are being pushed to I don't mean to sound like
hypersexualize
yes,
themselves.
and I'm trying not to be, I'm all for freedom and
I mean,
and
yeah,
women's
of
rights,
course. But at the same time, you see, like, you go on TikTok, and
oh,
if you want to be popular,
man.
you got to be,
you got to be
cutesy,
sexualized.
you
And
got to,
I cannot
yeah,
imagine
exactly.
that is doing anything good whatsoever
Yeah, no,
for
it
the
must be
developing
horrible.
youth. And even if I was a parent, if I was a parent today, I would not, if I had a daughter, let them even close to social media with what I've seen. And I don't know what that makes me. I don't know what it's going to be like in 20 years if I do have kids, but I just know that either it ends or it doesn't get any better and it only gets worse.
I don't think they can end it at this point. Like,
Yeah. Go ahead.
I actually, I have a couple things to say about Instagram. Then I'm gonna move to Snapchat. Then I'll move to TikTok. So buckle up a little bit. So my initial thoughts on Instagram is I enjoy that we brought this up because I've talked to Evan and my roommate Dawn about it a lot. I deleted my Instagram about 6 to 7 months ago, and I'm honestly really happy I did it. I don't have the connection with my high school classmates or any of the high school classmates that I had, but I don't really need it, first off, and it really saves me a lot of time from just sitting there mindlessly scrolling and worrying about what other people are up to and worrying about just minute social circumstances that I shouldn't be worrying about. Like, oh, I see one of my ex-girlfriends, like, having a conversation with some random guy in the comment section of a random person's post. I shouldn't see that. I shouldn't have to be subject to that, and I shouldn't even be remotely thinking about it, but Instagram just puts it right in front of my face.
yeah.
And it's just shit like that, and they can get you to scroll for hours and hours and hours. And I think it just causes people to think about things they don't need to be thinking about. It's horrible.
I agree.
And Instagram, like you said, Nabil, hypersexualizes teens. It hypersexualizes kids. It forces people to portray their best lifestyle, and in turn, it makes other people feel like shit about themselves. So that's my thoughts on Instagram. Moving on, we got Snapchat. Snapchat is my main form of communication, but I think the worst part about Snapchat is Snap Maps. Snap Maps is, I think, the single most I don't know if pivotal is the right word, but it has changed my life the most, and it has changed others around me's life very heavily, because you can see what people are doing around you, but more importantly, you can see the time somebody last signed in onto Snapchat. And the ability to see if somebody is actively responding to you or not, or to see if they're ignoring you, or to see
where hanging out with your other friends, or not hanging out with you,
or if they're excluding you. I think that is it's horrible.
And that just it feeds into the whole thing about social media. Like the main point I think is like we've been giving, and this is you could say this about the whole internet nowadays and how it contributes to modern day depression and stuff. Like we've been given this awesome amount of power and not just power,
and just
information,
knowledge about not like
why do you think
about
that we're
other
all
people's
so
lives.
there's so much uptick in anxiety and depression is because we know so much now. We know much more than the generations before us ever did, and it's all
and
at
it's
our fingertips.
unnecessary. Yeah, it's just unnecessary information about things that we can't really affect, but they can still affect us.
Right. And social media is built on the idea of inclusion, and it kind of ingrains in our heads, especially us. We're kind of one of the younger generations to experience social media. It builds that idea that you should know everything. It builds that idea that you should be included in everything. And if your friends do a single thing without you, then they're not your friend. It builds a toxic environment for not only friendships, but relationships and any sort of interactions you have online. And I'll go back to Snapchat. Snapchat has overtaken texting in most young people's life. 100%. It's the main form of communication.
For sure.
In Snap Maps, like I said, it's detrimental to friendships and relationships because you can see the last time somebody went on. I think that is
what they're doing, who they're with.
Yeah. And also, Snap Maps is used as a tool to communicate interest in somebody else, right? So if somebody has their Snap Maps on, it's like it signals that they're romantically interested in you, or they could just have it on for everybody. You don't know, and it's one of those things that it's so dynamic in its use, but every single interpretation of it is negative, and it is one of those things where I will continue to shit on it for hours and hours on end. But if you look at my phone right now, I have my Snap Maps on because that's just the world we fucking live in.
Thank God I don't have mine on. But yeah, what do you think there's any route, just to finish this up, unless Ben has something else to say, do you think there's any route to an end or some sort of a decrease in social media's terrible effects in so many ways?
No.
Or are we fucked?
I think it's going to be on an individual level, and you have to evaluate how it affects you and change that yourself. But I think I personally have been affected so much growing up that I can't even begin to fathom who I would be without it. The amount of I'll put in an example. This is personal, but whatever. I would never have asked out if it wasn't for social media. I would never have the balls to do something like that.
I'll send to that.
The ability to embarrass myself on a platform, and it's horrible. Like, it gives people access to things they really shouldn't be doing, especially young people. So,
it's bleak. Shout out to the Social Network movie.
Shout out to Mark.
Shout out to Marky Mark.
Mark Mattia. I'll shout out
to all Marks.
Every Mark out there. Mark Mattia, Mark Zuckerberg, Mark Ass Brownlee, Mark.
Ass Brownlee.
You just go back to that.
I wonder if they're going to do a YouTube rewind this year.
Jesus Christ, I hope not.
The one last year was awful.
What about, how are they going to cover coronavirus this year? That's what I want to know.
K-pop.
They'll just show all the TikTok stars going to parties and not wearing
I think TikTok is... Okay, Ben, what do you think about TikTok?
Dude, I think it's really bad for some reasons. But for all the reasons we just talked about, I think other social medias are just as bad. So,
what do you think about TikTok specifically, and where does it rank on your level of...
I think Facebook is a lot worse than it.
Facebook is easily the worst, yeah.
Yeah, I think... we've been talking about Twitter, but I think Twitter's probably the best.
But at the same time, and I'm sorry for interrupting, but I feel like this is an important thing to mention. As as many negative things we've said about social media, I think what makes this so complicated is all the positive things that have come out of it.
Yeah.
Because
What keeps us hooked?
like, yeah, exactly. I feel like, without social media, there are so many like things I feel like I would have missed out on. And I feel like, and not only that, but you have like people, making friends, starting groups, starting events and movements
Yeah.
through social media.
We talked
And-
about like Snapchat communications being, there are some cons to that, but the ability that we can contact so many people when normally we wouldn't be able to without their phone number, or before that without them physically, is pretty profound.
Yeah, and I guess that's just something I felt like I needed to mention, because we can shit on social media all we want, but what makes it what makes it such a controversial like topic, I think, is just because as many bad things as we could say about social media, it's also done just as many good things. But I think for the individual, I would definitely say it's a bad thing, and it's not healthy. All right, so sorry for that interruption, Ben. I would love to hear your rankings of the social media.
I don't actually care about his rankings. I just want to.
Okay.
No,
I
do.
Fun. I think some good memes come out of it, similar to a Vine. The China stuff is bad, but
The minor stuff bad.
yeah. But my point is that the issues with security are on every social media.
Not as much as.
Not as much.
I'm not here to have
I'm
not here to have a TikTok debate. I just want to be clear.
You just told me you wanted to have a TikTok debate.
I didn't say I
what
wanted
I'm
to debate. I just
saying
wanted to hear
is
you
that
defend it. I didn't say
I want you to, if you're vowing off TikTok, I want you to vow off Facebook.
Well,
and
if you let me
Instagram
speak.
and Twitter. And
Will you just listen to me?
All
The
right.
reason, don't get me wrong, Facebook, Instagram, which are the same company, and even Twitter are all evil in that same regard, but not as much, because we know to a very high degree where the data is going. It's in the terms and conditions. We know where it's going. We know about the advertisers. We know about all these things. And it's terrible. We have to change it or quit it or blah, 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 blah. I think what makes TikTok so troubling is its connection to a foreign government that we don't know what they're doing. It's been
Can
proven.
I join the Thunderdome
Sure.
about TikTok? So do you guys have any knowledge about TikTok's algorithm?
No,
Specifically,
not really.
no, but I have some. I know. I read about.
Kind of understand how
I understand what they're called.
What TikTok does is it measures the amount of time you spend on a specific page, as well as it copies the data on your clipboard. So whatever the last thing you copied or pasted on your phone, every 10 seconds, no matter if the app is open or closed, it will copy the information on your clipboard every 10 seconds. It has access to your location every 15 seconds. It has access to your internet search history on all devices on the Wi-Fi network. And it literally what TikTok did was they created a perfect algorithm to figure out how to tailor your For You page so you would spend the most time on the app.
Yeah, of course. And I hear Instagram does similar things where they see how long you're looking at posts. I thought that was something that is definitely, it's interesting. Because I've always wondered,
it's really smart. It's genius, but it's essentially trying to treat humans like a program. And I don't know. I think TikTok is especially bad due to the fact that it's kind of making a lot of kids have a short attention span, and it's also just feeding these kids just a lot of information very quickly, and
information that arguably a lot of the children that use it should not be knowing of.
It's like a Facebook Instagram combo for me. And I think that, and exactly what you were saying about the information being the Facebook side of it, and the Instagram being the sexualization side of young people. And I think that those combined, tailored for young people, is what makes me dislike TikTok the most. And thirdly, being its relations to a foreign government that we know is collecting the data versus the U.S., which is, I mean, many arguments there, but I just think, I think there's a massive security threat there. I mean, it was banned on a federal level. No federal employees can use TikTok.
Furthermore, it gives a lot of young people a voice when they really shouldn't have one because they're not old enough to have formulated a fleshed out opinion on a topic.
Yeah. How old do you think like kids should be before they should be allowed to use social media?
I think at least 13.
Yeah, that's kind of the number I thought.
Yeah, I'm thinking 14, maybe 15, depending on what we're talking about.
That's a good...
And even then, there needs to be heavy... I'm not even saying you can implement this, but I think that the only way... There has to be a healthy start. There has to be a healthy base, Otherwise, they're just going to fall into the same shit that a lot of people we know did. And it would make me very, very sad to see that happen again, as it's already happening, generation or class after class, if you want to put it that way. So it's pretty, it's pretty daunting.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, it's just interesting to see like even just the differences between me and like my siblings.
Yeah,
exactly. I'm the middle child, so I kind of grew up with social media. Like, I mean, I did, but like not as early as either of my younger brothers. And it's fascinating and at times a little worrisome to see like how many things like my youngest stepbrother knows that like I was just completely oblivious to as a child. Things that you shouldn't need to really be aware of, that,
things that affect your mental health, things that aren't just information that are like, it's one thing to collect knowledge and information to better yourself or even just to have it. I'm not saying you can't have knowledge that you don't want to use. I'm just saying, like you said, Evan, there needs to be a correlation for it to make sense, and that's all,
Oh, we have whisked on 2 tying shots.
Ooh.
What?
We're playing Rocket League.
Oh. And you didn't invite me. All right.
I'm playing 2K right now.
What the hell? Am I the only one not playing a video game right now?
I've been playing Madden the entire podcast. I just enjoy talking.
I was just playing 1v1.
I literally have pages of notes I'm writing as you guys are speaking, so that I have something to talk about. What the
You're writing notes. Nah, dude, when it comes to social media, I can kind of go off and just, talk about it for a bit.
I'm not talking about social media. I'm talking about everything.
This is the pain of running the podcast.
Well, you're the leader.
Yeah.
You want all the fame and credit, all right.
Like in the beginning, I was like, oh man, Sam is kind of taking the leadership position. He's doing really well. But it turns out I'm just stupid because he's been playing football this whole time and he somehow is still
It's just something you can talk about. I'm sure if we bring up like comics or something,
I'm talking about everything.
Talk about it with your brain closed.
Anyway.
That's all right.
Well, no deal. I haven't been playing it the entire time. Like when I was sitting there going on a little tangent, I would pause it and I would pay full attention because like this is a lot of these topics are things I care about. I mean,
I know. I'm just kidding. It's just.
I know.
Yeah, it's fine. It's whatever.
Fine. It's fine. Yeah.
I feel like we probably didn't do a great job connecting all that social media talk to movies. Not that
I was just about to go there.
Matters. Okay.
But I mean, well, my thing is like, obviously social network. Everyone knows that one. And I think that it's interesting to an extent that there have been a lot of tries to talk about social media in a movie format, and not many of them have really been able to strike base in a.
Oh, you mean,
what?
I'm sorry for interrupting all the time. You said that and it made me think of that like Disney movie called like Cyberbully or something, or like I don't know.
Like Unfriended, Searching. Apparently, Searching was good actually.
I have not seen that one.
That's the one where they're all like on a Skype call and they all get murdered. The Circle. Remember when The Circle came out and it was Emma Watson and Tom Hanks and people were like, "Whoa, that's gonna be pretty good." But then it wasn't.
I remember seeing so many ads for that, and then.
Did anyone ever watch it? I don't think it must have just bombed because I don't think anyone saw it.
It got marketed really hard because it was like.
Yeah, but it was so
Emma
boring.
Watson thing since like the last Harry Potter, I think. Like,
It looked so stupid. What was it about? Just she worked new social
Emma
media.
Watson seizes the opportunity of a lifetime when she lands a job with the world's most powerful tech and social media company, encouraged by the company's founder, Tom Hanks.
Oh my god, I watched this movie. I literally did not even think about that until...
How does that play? How does it play into what we talked about then?
Bro, I have no idea. I remember nothing about it. How forgettable it was.
You and everyone else who saw it. I mean, I guess we could talk about, like, Black Mirror. I think that's a...
crashed.
Ooh, yeah, that specific episode, Black Mirror.
Which one? I like
it's
the one
called...
I like the one Nosedive with Bryce Dallas Howard.
Yes, that's what I'm talking about.
I think that's
that
like
one
my
is about
favorite
social
episode.
media.
There, a lot of them are. So.
Okay.
But yeah, I really like that one. I think that's one of my favorite episodes, actually. I don't know if either you or Sam have seen it, Nabil, but it's basically just like this reality where you kind of like your social status is basically mirrored with your, social media status, and you get like ratings.
You get a rating. Yeah, they did this on Community before they did the Black Mirror episode as a comedy episode.
They also are doing it in real life in China.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Really?
Yes.
In community, it was called Meow Meow Beans. Everyone in the community college had a different rating, and there were the 1 stars, the 2 stars, and the 3 stars, or whatever.
Oh yeah.
Or whatever it was called, not stars. They're like cats or something, and it's pretty funny. But yeah, no, they did that before they did the Black Mirror episode. It was pretty funny. But
Black
yeah,
Mirror.
no, fuck Black Mirror. No, I mean, starting in China means it'll be here soon, right?
Yeah. Once Joe Biden wins, that goddamn socialist.
I think it will be interesting to see, like, because, realistically, social media is still, like, in its baby years, in the way I see it. Like, it's definitely changed a lot since it started initially, but I feel like there's, who knows how much further it can go from here, really. It's only been, like, 15 years now.
Thank you, Evan.
You're welcome.
Thanks for that thought, Evan.
Okay, we'll switch topics.
So Ben, I know you wrote I guess you DM'd me during this discussion. You said that OnlyFans is the best creation to come out of the social media age. You wanted to talk about that?
No comment.
I mean, you're the one who said you wanted to talk about it. So.
No comment.
All right.
I mean, if you want me to. Okay. I don't know. Dude, I didn't actually say that. No, I mean, what I think is interesting in modern times is actually that, like, it's a very viable career path for people, especially during a time like the pandemic.
Right? Until Bella Thorne does it, right?
That is true. But no, I mean, a lot of people actually make like enough money to live off of it, which is pretty cool. Like, I think it's an example of sex work that is like
been amplified by social media.
And it's not harming anyone, so it's people's personal choice, as opposed to other forms of sex work that can potentially be harmful.
The thing with the OnlyFans, the long-term repercussions it will have on some of these women's lives and some of these men's lives.
I mean, it goes back to what Ben was saying about personal choice, though. I think it's much more clear in an OnlyFans light what you're choosing to put out in the public versus what you're doing when you started Instagram. You don't really know what you're getting into when you talk about in that regard. So sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but yeah.
No, it's perfectly understandable. I don't know. Just, I think a lot of these girls who are in college and creating OnlyFans to get some extra cash are going to look back when they have a kid who pulled up a sex tape of them 20 years down the line and regret it.
Well, I think that goes back to, I think that's just it's a narrow-minded point of view on, not narrow-minded, I'm sorry, that sounds I'm not trying to be offensive here.
Go ahead.
I think that
it's a limited point of view.
Yeah, it's becoming more socially acceptable for things like this, and I think that's a good thing. They say like prostitution is like the oldest form of work, right? The oldest occupation. Like that's a joke, but also like it's true in a way. Like sex work exists and always will, always has, and like I think that normalizing it isn't a bad thing. Maybe some people will regret it, but again, it's their personal choice. And I think that down the line, like a thing like this, where more and more people have it, normalizes it for everyone, which makes it less dangerous and less socially stigmatized. For in the future, like people won't be denied jobs maybe for doing something at like a time where it was all they could do.
Mm-hmm. I agree with you 100%.
Mhm.
I think it's interesting to see the evolution. Back in the day when social media started and very popular people, there were popular kids and they had like, oh my god, so and so has 300 followers. What the hell, that kind of thing. And sometimes you'd be like, people would make a fake account of that person. I don't know if you remember this, and they'd be like, no, that's not me. That's not me, guys. That's not me. We're just trying to, And seeing that now, where I'm seeing people that I was acquainted with in school, like fake OnlyFans being made of them, I'm like, what the hell? That's just such a weird reality to me, I don't know if you've ever seen anything. You've seen what I'm talking about specifically, but
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I saw that last
Fake
night.
OnlyFans. Yeah, and I know it's definitely a thing. A friend of mine says he knows, like, there are people who do that. They just make fake accounts.
Just to make a quick buck, before he gets taken down.
Yeah, because it's, it's a for sure guaranteed way to make money. And it's kind of like, it's a little worrisome because, there's some areas of, profession where someone could, have this happen to them, where someone makes like a fake OnlyFans account of them. And it could really like damage, even if it's, even if there's nothing there to, show for it.
Right.
I feel like it's not only damaging for like someone's like, I don't know, like professional future, but also like, mental health. I would feel devastated if I found like something like that. Especially
if, like Ben was saying, where it's a means of survival for some people.
Mm-hmm.
And then down the line, when you're doing better in life and you want to get a job at, a business place or a law firm or something, and you can't get it because they associate your name with an OnlyFans, they're like, we can't have that on our plate,
Yeah.
And anyway, I think we kind of covered that. I'm trying not to like preach because I'm not a woman, and
yeah,
I'm not a woman, and I'm not in that unfortunate position, or fortunate position if you like doing it, whatever. But the point is, social media continues to evolve in every facet of our lives, and I'm not trying to shame anybody, but it's interesting to see this progress.
Right, and I actually want to bring up a topic we were talking about yesterday, is the topic of deepfakes, it ties into how scary technology is. You talk about fake OnlyFans. Deepfakes are what scares the hell out of me.
Oh yeah.
Right.
And
not
to clarify,
only
before, I want to make sure everybody listening knows what a deepfake is.
Right.
A deepfake is a video where they use little tiny dots on a person's face to make them appear as if they're another person, and they use video and editing to transform your face into that of another person. So I could make my face look like Barack Obama's face.
Yeah, and it has a troubling kind of implication on our society, specifically also our political system, where not only, I don't know if you guys have seen this, but there's this thing called the Adobe, oh my god, I'm forgetting the name. It's called Adobe something. It's a new program by Adobe that they were going to release that basically is a vocal synthesizer, and they need like a few seconds, if that, of someone's voice. And there's a demonstration you can watch on YouTube. You can look at this with Jordan Peele.
Yeah, that shit is scary.
Yeah, no, Darian actually showed it to me. Shout out to Darian. But literally, they did it. They took a clip of him talking, analyzed it with the program very quickly, and they just typed in a sentence that was not anything like what he had said, and it sounded like he was saying it. And you combine that technology with deepfakes, you can make anyone say anything or look like they're saying anything, and that is trouble.
It's absurd.
And deepfakes were originally like a big issue with like kind of people are turning it into like porn, putting someone's face on like someone else's body. But I remember seeing something last year, and it was like the potential like political dangers that deepfakes could bring by like you could basically have the president make like a message and say like, I think the example they used was like something about like a bombing of a country. Like you could have basically make someone of power say something that could potentially actually lead to like danger and
Right, and you pair that with maybe it's hard enough. It's going to be hard enough to detect that in our own country, I'm sure. But maybe if it's like even in a third world country where once again you put it into hand in hand with Facebook, something like Facebook, where it's a propaganda machine that is unmitigated, and you pair it with that, like you said, you could just make it sound like the fucking U.S. is declaring war, and you could have the people of a country just thinking that something is happening when it's not.
You guys saw that Trump. Oh, I don't mean to cut you off, but you guys saw that Trump got his Twitter hacked the other week, right?
Yeah, I don't know what ended up happening, but I heard he got hacked.
If you paired a Twitter hack of Trump with a deep fake of him declaring war, and just posted it on his account, do you know how many nations would lose their shit in an instant?
Yeah, a lot.
And it would be believable based on his past actions because he's not the most rational.
Right.
So it would
I mean, to kind of pair it back to movies, there is the way I see it, kind of way that they've been playing it with the deepfake technology, and a way that it could go that is not as creative. I don't want to say positive. Okay, I mean, we've all seen Marvel movies where they use de-aging on actors for a portion of the movie. You saw it in Civil War with Robert Downey Jr. You see it in other ones, Ant-Man with Michael Douglas. Captain Marvel, where the whole movie Samuel L. Jackson was made to look like he was 40 or 30. And that's just kind of, whatever. You can have your thoughts about that. It's seemingly wholesome or whatever you want to call it. It's not necessarily a bad thing. It's weird on a creative level, perhaps, or a critical level. But, I mean, and that's a form of deepfake technology. And you could have movies. They're making a movie about, I think, is it Dean Martin? Or the whole movie? Sorry, James Dean. James Dean. They're making a full James Dean movie from footage that doesn't exist. It's all going to be him with a deepfake face on a different actor.
That sounds so stupid.
Right, but the point
legal?
is that...
Can you, if James Dean can't, he can't consent to having his body be put in this movie.
Apparently, I think it's his estate.
Yeah, fair enough.
It counts.
Dude, I would hate that. That'd be so disrespectful. Just let me die in peace.
Yeah, literally. I mean, and that's the thing you have to think about, the other side of that. I mean, you could replace an existing movie with a different actor if you wanted to and sell that cut, Oh, you didn't like this actor playing fucking Iron Man, or you didn't like Keanu Reeves playing Neo, we can replace him with this actor, and we're going to sell this cut digital. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's so many implications in different ways that this could go. And I think that's just really, really interesting, and it's pretty, could be scary.
Oh, definitely.
We've covered a lot of different topics. It's been an interesting podcast. We've started kind of unsure of ourselves. We weren't sure where this was going to go.
I think we talked about some interesting topics,
kind of perspectives that we got, and everyone kind of got to open up in their own way, and I appreciate everyone doing that on a stupid podcast. Hope you had fun playing video games while you were talking. It was really
it's called multitasking, Nabil.
You could have invited me. But yeah, no, this was great. Any last parting thoughts?
I mean, I guess like we didn't do a super great job tying it into movies, but hey, who
I think
says
it was
Filmatic's
fine.
all about films? At least we brought up Dinner with Schmucks, so I feel like
No, I think the
we did our duty.
from the 40% point on, we did a fine job tying in with movies. And my whole idea with this was that it wouldn't have to even.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
that
yeah.
considered, I think we did pretty well. This is, this is meant for the viewers to have a nice snack before the next big review.
Oh yeah, next one's gonna be fun.
Austin Powers, yeah, baby.
Oh yes, oh yeah, baby.
When are you guys watching the second and third films?
We already, some of us have already seen the second one or rewatched it, some of us, and the third one will be coming up next maybe day or two.
Ooh.
Yo, Nabil,
I would. Yep.
do I make you horny, baby?
Oh yeah. I'm sorry, there's a little cat in the hat. If
Nice,
we don't do
you
a
have to-
fucking
you have to
cat in the
mix
hat
it.
See there?
podcast,
I caught him speechless, bro. He didn't even know how to
You
respond.
did. I was trying to think of a reference to respond with, but I was just like, all I could think about
You gotta
was,
say, "Oh, behave."
oh yeah,
Oh,
that's a big
behave.
thing. Ladies and gentlemen, my spy in the Ministry of Defense, fat bastard. First things first. Where's your shitter? I got a
They
turtle
were
head
fat
poking out.
bastards.
It's making me all emotional. But yeah, no, it's gonna be fun. Guys, we're living a crazy time. Borat references are back in. Austin Powers references are back in. What's next? Shrek reboot's
With
coming out soon.
Schmucks sequel.
I'll actually
Breakfast
have
with
meaning in my
Schmucks.
life is what's next.
Have what in your life?
Meaning in my life. That's what's next.
Dude, we have meaning, and it's to record more filmatic podcasts.
Yeah, that's our meaning in life. No, but
Just wait, it's gonna blow up one of these days.
the podcast is blowing up. We had actually I should mention that I really should. We were featured in the newest edition of Torch, Pineview Torch. So
Interesting.
if you couldn't move on from high school before, yeah.
Why start now?
Why start now? But all jokes aside, really grateful that we're being exposed to children like that.
To being exposed to children. Yeah.
And
Good
no.
to see we'll have a bunch of our audience demographic will go down a little bit. We'll have to make some more kid-friendly jokes.
Yeah, censor a lot more.
So yeah, Austin Powers is next.
No, but thank you to Brianna Nelson at the Torch for reaching out to me and doing an interview and a story. So
yeah, that's awesome.
cool. I love Pineview. Okay. And
It's a love-hate relationship for me.
yeah, no, that's more like it. Is there anything that anyone wants to plug before we get out of here?
My butt.
Wow, great
It's a
mind.
butt plug joke.
That's not PG. That's not PG.
That's for all our Pineview listeners.
Oh, Jesus.
Evan Lemole from Pineview.
I like to believe that our dear old principal maybe saw the article on this Torch and he's listening in right now.
Great. This is his first introduction. Let's see what those boys are doing.
Oh, this is pretty great. Wait.
Wait, what? Fuck? What is that?
OnlyFans. No, but
Timely topics.
timely topic. All right, so if anyone doesn't have anything, Ben, do you want to plug something? You've been pretty quiet these last few minutes, Ben.
I'm sorry. I'm just excited for the Austin Powers podcast. I've never watched before now, and they're pretty damn good. So I'd highly recommend. Mike Myers overall pretty great. You gotta love Shrek. You gotta love Cat in the Hat. All of them. Watch all of them. I just watched Shrek the musical last night. I'm writing a paper on it. Pretty good musical too. It's on Netflix.
So-
Check it out.
When you left the call last night and said you had to watch a play for your schoolwork, you went to watch Shrek the musical?
I did watch Shrek the musical.
Okay, cool. No, but yeah, guys, continue entering in that giveaway. Check out Instagram. We already have 2 contenders, so it's getting tight. It's getting close.
My plug, I got a plug.
Yeah, go ahead.
It's specifically calling out one person.
Oh.
Please do not Snapchat me anymore. I do not want to.
Okay. Going to definitely censor that.
Oh my god.
Wait, how are you gonna? She lives in Sarasota.
Oh my god, please stop.
Have I told you this story, Evan? Oh, it's such a funny story. Oh, Nabil, really quick. So one day, I get added by username by this girl. This was like last December. And I noticed the name because I was already, and somehow, some way, she was under the impression that I was going to, but I'm underage. I'm only 19 right now. I was 18 at the time. I have.
Yeah, why would you?
I couldn't. So she Snapchats me and she's like, "Hey, are you Sam Moss?"
No.
Obviously. Do you guys know the Richard Nixon meme that was sent? The "I am not Sam Moss."
No.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
I'll send it to you. I think it's one of my favorite pictures. But I sent her a meme back.
Oh wait,
and she was like,
I do.
and
Not.
She asked me to.
Damn.
Fiendin, really.
All that for a drop of White Claw.
And I just asked her if she was stupid, and then related.
Oh my god, Jesus. All right. So yeah, thanks for that, Sam.
You're welcome.
Great story. Sam, you are more than welcome to come back anytime, especially for the Austin Powers podcast.
I would love to.
I think having you would make it the perfect number. I think it would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people, including myself, maybe 6 if Manny joins. So that's perfect. Yeah. So everybody, thank you for listening to this very special and very new episode of Filmatic. If you liked the format, let us know. If you didn't, let me know. We can do more or less of this, but I promise there's going to be more formats in the future either way. And once again, I'd like to thank my guests, Evan Lemolier, Ben Casey, and Sam Moss. This has been Nabil Sharif. If you're listening to Filmatic, you can follow us on @Filmatic Podcast on Instagram, @Nabil Sharif on Instagram, and I'll link these guys' social medias below. Ben, what's your OnlyFans name? What's the name you use for your OnlyFans?
It's
Mandingo.
Wait, Ben, do you have an OnlyFans?
OG Mud Ben.
Oh, that's
Thank
a great
you.
one.
Okay. I'll go ahead and link that. But yeah, thank you guys for listening. Let's do a funny outro, guys.
Bye.
Yeah, I'll just play.